Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's special edition of the Draft Countdown Podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bosarge. As always, my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, the 2023 Senior Bowl got underway today with their first practices. They had the weigh-in kind of scattered as players came in over the Sunday and Monday, but we finally got those results in today. And like I said, we had the opening press conference this morning, and with Jim Nagy and Max Duggan and Isaiah Foskey were there. And then we got out to the practice out at Hancock Whitney Stadium on the campus of South Alabama. We had the national team practice first, and then we had the American team practice in the afternoon. So it was a pretty busy go at it today.
Yeah, you had a packed day heading from the press conference to the practices. I'm interested to pick your brain and see how it went. I was tracking the weigh-in and getting all those numbers up on the site. So if you want a nice sortable list of all the weigh-in numbers, we have that up at Draft Countdown weigh-in in the toolbar. But you, Brian, you were the star of the show. You're the Mobile native. You're the guy everyone goes to. So yeah. Take me through the early stuff, press conferences, any information from Nagy or some of the players that you found interesting?
I can say just based off some of the stuff that Nagy talked about today, you could tell that he is visibly aggravated with having to constantly answer questions about the Shrine Bowl. Without saying it by name, he didn't actually say that, but he said that there were two players that went to the Shrine Bowl that they actually invited, and that was it. Didn't name those names, but at least one should be fairly easy to figure out.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about on here. We've taken that guess. I mean, Zay Flowers is definitely the guy.
Definitely the guy. The other, debatable, but it was interesting there. I asked the final question today at the press conference, which was basically, hey man, where's the weigh-in numbers? I'm not kidding when I say I asked that question, because it's like everybody in there wanted to know. I mean, it's not like I didn't get congratulatory pats on the back for asking that question, and not long after that, the weigh-in numbers started flying. I'm not going to say I was the catalyst for reminding people, but it shouldn't have taken that long to get those numbers out. But it's fine. We got them. They're there now.
Last year they came out on Monday. I think the year before they came out on Monday. I cleared my schedule a bit on Monday so I could upload them, and then we had to wait the extra day. But we got them. We got them all today, which was nice.
Yeah, I mean the rest of it was just mostly him just talking. This is going to be their first year in 7. This is going to end their 6 or 7. I can't remember if it's 6 or 7 year streak of having a first round quarterback. So he has no qualms saying that he doesn't have a first round quarterback here. I found it interesting that Dane Brugler went back and looked. The Senior Bowl has had at least a top 100 quarterback every year since 2001. That streak is in jeopardy this year as well, I believe, based off of what we've seen on tape and what I saw today. So he not going to have the quarterbacks this year. Hendon Hooker possibly could have had he not torn the ACL, but we'll never.
He's here. He counts.
He's here. He's going to count, and I think he's going to end up in that top 100 range to keep that streak going. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it was just pumping up Mobile and pumping up his staff and everything. And those guys, they work hard and they do a great job. So they deserve acknowledgement.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a really busy time. You mentioned, and I think it got sent out that over 1,000, media attending. Like they definitely are. It's a lot more than when I started going. I'll say that, and that was even growing at that point. So it's exciting. But yeah. I mean, so that was good. Anything from any of the players, as you mentioned, Isaiah Foskey or any of the other ones that came out next thing?
I didn't get much from Foskey's press conference other than he wanted to match up with DeJuan Jones. Said he had been watching tape on Jones and Blake Freeland to kind of prepare for those one-on-ones. And that's about the only really thing I gleaned from him. Max Duggan mostly took a lot of questions about the run at TCU and Sonny Dykes and stuff like that. A lot of college football related questions for Max Duggan, and that's probably fair.
Yeah. No, I mean it's good. Sometimes, I remember those. Sometimes those press conferences, it's like, they're not saying much, but some of those guys like to. It's a little more relaxed, open up a little bit. So
Drew
I'm sure
Lock was like that a couple of years ago. He just opened up and let fly, and
I love it.
Kudos to him because he took every question and answered it, and he didn't no cliches from Drew Lock a couple of years ago.
So maybe you'll get someone like that this week. We'll see.
We'll see. We got the media breakfast in the morning where we'll get some potential interview time with both teams. I am curious how that's going to go with, like you said, over 1,000 credentialed media. And I know the room that we're going to be in. And I don't know how this is going to go.
Hopefully some people's flights got canceled, delayed, and maybe have a little bit less, but it'll be interesting. So I'm sure you'll report back tomorrow how cramped it was, and I'm sure everyone will get fed at the breakfast. So
yeah, I'm sure everybody will enjoy their shrimp and grits. Tomorrow morning.
So let's get into the practices then. Let's tell me, that's really what we're here for. This talk to me a little bit generally how this first practice differs from the rest of the week, and then we can kind of get into some specific players.
Well, the first practice, they only wear helmets and shoulder pads, so it's not a full padded practice like we'll see Wednesday and fingers crossed Thursday. Those practices are full go. That's why I really don't watch a whole lot of the offensive and defensive line drills today because I want to see them guys 100 mile an hour hitting each other. I don't want to see just what they were doing. You can get some stuff from what they do today, but to me, I want to see them go at it. And that's definitely going to be my focus tomorrow. But it is hard not to notice DeJuan Jones on that field. He is a mammoth man. And he stood next to Jalen Duncan, the offensive tackle from Maryland, and you wouldn't think they played the same position. That's how much bigger Jones is. And Duncan's a big guy, but he's nowhere in the stratosphere that Jones is.
Yeah, Jones came in 6'8" and 1/8, 375 pounds. The 89.5-inch wingspan is ginormous, but maybe more so is 11 and 3/8-inch hands, fifth largest in NFL history when he gets drafted.
So
ever.
I don't know how many people can see this, but my hand here I have measured is 9 inches. I beat the bare minimum of a quarterback in the NFL. Now add 2 and 3/8 inches to that, and that's how big those mitts are.
Yeah. And Jalen Duncan, for comparison, 6'5.5", 298 pounds. He came in, so it's almost an 80-pound difference between those guys.
Another thing about this first day of practice, and in my piece I put up a couple of hours ago on the site, I'm going to be critical of people because that's what I see, and I'm going to praise people because that's what I see. But this first day of practice almost has to be taken with a mild grain of salt because especially when looking at the quarterbacks, because these guys have no idea who any of these receivers are or anything like that. These guys have no idea what they're getting into with these playbooks. They've had the playbook for 2 days. So they barely know any of this stuff. So it's kind of like you want to take this day with a grain of salt and hope they get better. And one guy who I hope gets better, especially in pass pro going forward. And Shane, when you get into the film later tonight, you're going to see this. If you go to the running back, linebacker, pass pro, Chase Brown could not block a soul. I don't know how much pass blocking he had to do at Illinois, but I can tell you it looked like he never did it at all.
Yeah. He was running. That's what he's doing. Not
Right.
not pass protecting there at Illinois. So that's tough, especially for a guy that's 215 pounds. I mean he's coming in tied for the second biggest back on the national team. That's not great.
The guy who he's tied with for the second biggest back on that national team, I believe, is Cameron Peoples, and that man can pass pro. And he won every rep that I saw him take. Very, very, and he looks the part too, Shane. Him and Roshan Johnson, they look like NFL running backs when you see them out there on the field. Like I said, running backs, this is really, to me, in the one-on-one receiving drill, these are, to me, the only real drills that I can see anything from them in practice, because these guys are gamers, right? So you're going to see them in the game. That's where they're going to really excel. Maybe in the team drills for a little bit, but the pass pro and the one-on-one passing is where running backs really have a chance to shine. And Peoples and Evan Hull was another guy that stood out in those drills.
Yeah. So basically, the rest of the running backs can pass block, not Chase Brown on the national team.
Well, Rashawn Johnson struggled pass blocking as well. I'll say that. So
there are a couple good reps his around, but yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes the 11-on-11s you can get a little bit, that burst and get to see a little bit of that shiftiness, but you're still not taking hits, especially today without pads.
Jeff Risen had an interesting observation about two players on this roster, and I put it in my article. Standing next to each other was J.L. Skinner, the safety from Boise State, and Dayon Henley, the linebacker from Washington State. Very similar builds of two different players that play two different positions. Skinner, safety, like I said, Henley, a linebacker. Skinner, to me, just looking, he's very tall. He's got great length, but he's built narrow, if that makes sense. But he was wearing a half shirt today, and if I had abs like he does, I'd probably wear those same kind of clothes on a daily basis. Yeah, he was ripped up. But Henley, Dayon Henley really looked good out there in multiple drills I saw today, multiple reps I saw him. He stood out, probably one of the better defensive players on the national team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan, and I think this is a great showcase for him as a guy who can have that lateral agility that reads plays really well. I think in a lot of those drills, he's going to excel. So it's good to hear.
Talk about the quarterbacks a little bit here. Not the best day for any quarterback on this roster. Both teams. We'll get to the American practice in a little bit, but Malik Cunningham did not practice today. Stomach bug was the words that we heard. Understandable, dehydrated. You don't really want to go out there and try to practice with that. Jim Nagy tweeted earlier that he should be full go tomorrow. So that'll be good, because it looked like Hall and Hainer were kind of like wore out a little bit because they were having to basically do everything. Hainer really struggled on some of those big boy throws. The ones I'm talking about, the 15-yard outs and the deep cuts, struggled to get that velocity on the ball that you'd like to see. And it wasn't a windy day really at all. So, and Jaron Hall just kind of struggled with his ball placement at times during the day for most of the day. Had a couple just bad reads, and both of them struggled under center, but that doesn't bother me because I kind of expect that at this point for every quarterback that comes here.
I mean, I think it's tough for those quarterbacks to adjust. I mean, like you said, there's new receivers. You're taking snaps from places you haven't done that before. So, I mean, I expect there to be plenty of reps. I mean, the buzz was Jaron Hall really, really struggled. But I think tomorrow is really the true test. Once you settle down, you really need Wednesday, Thursday to be the good kind of practices. And I think Wednesday will be the big one. So hopefully we can key in on the quarterbacks a little bit next tomorrow.
Yeah. The two in Michigan State of Michigan wide receivers here today. I thought they looked good in the one-on-ones. Jaden Reed from Michigan State, he did a good job getting open, especially in the off-man coverage. And Ronnie Bell was he seemed to also succeed. I also noticed a little bit today that Ronnie Bell kind of lets the ball get into his chest a little bit, kind of something that, I hope to see him maybe clean up as we go through the week, because you don't want that going forward. As far as the corners go in these drills, the main standout to me for the national team was Caillou Blue Kelly, the Stanford cornerback. I thought he did a very good job, especially when allowed to press. When he was in the press coverage, he did a special route against Puka Nakua, who I thought had some success as well today. But there was a go route against Nakua, and he just rode him all the way up the sideline. So good job.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. Yeah, there were some clips. I watched the NFL Network kind of cut in stuff, recap. So I'm excited to dive in the film tonight. I'll be able to. I'll probably tweet some stuff out. But Puka Nakua looked good, and the fact that you have a corner like Kelly, who I think could struggle here, right? He's not this like super athlete guy to cover some of these, so it's good for him.
Yeah, I was just looking here at my notes. Got to talk about Riley Moss, the corner from Iowa. Fastest player on this team today via the GPS they have in their shoulder pads, almost 19 mile per hour today. He was clocked at. Definitely a corner, and had some good reps there today. So I wanted to shout him out while we were talking about this national team. I'm looking at my notes. Jaron Hall, he was indecisive a lot today. Like I said, and that's just going to be something that you want to see get better the rest of the week.
Right. Yeah, and that's something we need. I think, we talked about it on the podcast earlier that this will be interesting because I think the corner group is so strong. And usually in these one-on-ones, right, the receiver has the advantage. They're cutting. You have no help up top. Like, it's hard to cover one.
We're going to get to that, especially with the American team and the disadvantages of those big corners.
Yeah, so we'll see if the corners can win the day when we get pads on, but that's hard to do.
Yeah. Last note on the national team. Like I said, I didn't watch a whole lot of the offensive line, defensive line. But as I was watching one drill here and it ended, I just happened to glance over, and all I saw was Troy Center or Jake Andrews almost just chuck a guy out. I couldn't catch. I didn't see who the defender was. So I'm anxious to kind of go back and look at the tape and see who it was. Yeah. But it was pretty nice to see. But from other reports, other people I've seen today, Andrews maybe didn't have the best day, but if that's the only rep I saw of him, he was great.
Yeah, at least he'll have that one, right? So we'll have to keep an eye and see if we can find that on the film of him tossing some guys around.
We can move on to the American team practice now. This was the second team. This is the traditional SEC team, so to speak, the SEC All-Star team, if you will. This is where most of those guys go. We talked about the corners and how they're at a disadvantage, and that's especially true when you're these big corners like Darius Rush, like Julius Brents, who was 21. Rezjon Wright. These are really good corners, I think. All are going to be drafted in that second, fifth round area, right? Tank Dell, the wide receiver from Houston, just flat out embarrassed every single one of these guys every time he went up against them. I started feeling bad for him when I started looking up because I saw they were lined up from Dell. They had no chance. Be it press, be it off coverage, no chance.
Yeah, that's so hard because I've been there. I was there when Marquise Goodwin was there, right? He was just torching guys as a track athlete. And I think when Tank Dell came in, 163 pounds. So if you're this big 6'3" corner trying to go up against that guy, like you can't press, you can't really touch him that much. Definitely saw some clips of Rajon Wright. I mean, he was grabbing guys like they were throwing the fake flag every time, every rep, because he don't want to get beat anymore. And so that looks rough, but that's tough to do.
Yeah, it wasn't the best day for Rajon Wright. Darius Rush, he was up and down in his reps. He had
a nice interception. Yeah,
he had an interception, which is something you rarely see in these one-on-ones. The man picked the ball off. I mean, great timing. But then in another play, he tried to guess at the wide receiver route and ended up giving up like a 60-yard go route. So, win some, you lose some. And to be honest, that's kind of the way he was as a player on tape at South Carolina was, you take the good and you take the bad. It's kind of is what it is. Like I said, Julius Brents of the bigger corners, I thought he fared the best out there. Give a shout out to Tyreek Stevenson, the corner from Miami. There was one route, I can't remember the receiver he was going against, but he basically run the guy's route for him and then just cut him off and into you. I mean, it was pretty. One of the best defense routes I saw today. As far as receivers go, Xavier Hutchinson, Iowa State. I think that was on the American. Yes, he looked good. And a guy I didn't know too much about coming in, Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver, Virginia. He looked solid out there today.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys starting to get kind of that late day two buzz, potentially. A lot of these receivers in that area be interesting. So I'm definitely interested to see. I mean, you mentioned Julius Brents, the corner from Kansas State, 6'3", 202 with 33 and 3/4 inch arms. That's a long.
That'll play.
That's a Seattle Seahawk, Dallas Cowboy corner right there.
Yeah. A name conspicuous that I did not write down more than once in my notes is Rashee Rice, the wide receiver from SMU. Not saying he didn't have a good day. I just personally didn't see him do a whole lot. I said, maybe it's something I missed. I can't see everything, obviously, out there going on at one time, but I did not write his name down.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens. Sometimes you get lost in a practice, nothing stands out. So once again, we'll see what the pad's on and go through the film and try to watch. But if you're a receiver, I think you'll want to stand out more than anything.
I kind of glanced over at the punt return reps they had going, and to no surprise, Tank Dell and Darius Davis, wide receiver TCU, were two of the guys back doing that. That's kind of what they do. Eric Gray, running back from Oklahoma, was the third guy back.
Oh, cool.
But he's not the one you want back. You want the other two guys back there.
Fair, but look, I want to see those guys that don't, we don't get to see as much do it. That's fun too.
Let's see. I was looking just side by side. I in the team drills, Matthew Bergeron, the offensive tackle from Syracuse, and Osiris Torrance, the guard from Florida, they were paired up a lot, and it looks imposing. Those guys side by side. I can see why you would want those guys as your and I imagine when we see the starters for Saturday, that's probably going to be your two guys on the left side of the line.
Yep. I think it's probably a starting NFL pair right now. Plug them in.
And to be honest, and if you paired that with the center they had with them out there, John Michael Schmitz, you could really revamp your offensive line in one draft if you got all three of those guys.
Look, just take that bunch and see what happens. I like it.
Let's see. Quarterbacks out there today, they had all three out here. Max Duggan was probably, if I had to say, the best overall quarterback that I saw out there today as far as consistency, rep to rep. Clayton Tune probably had the highest highs. Tyson Badgett, of all 5 quarterbacks I saw today, his passes were the only ones I heard hitting the receiver's hands. He can spin it. I think he's probably got the biggest arm of the 6 quarterbacks here, definitely of the 5 that I saw today. And I'm just going to assume he throws the ball better than Cunningham as well.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a fair assumption. I mean, that's good when you're talking D2 player, right? To get that. I definitely saw a lot of praise for Clayton Tune today with some of those bigger passes. And I think from a quarterback standpoint, that's what, you don't want to make the big mistakes, but if you have some of those wow plays. So it sounds like the American quarterbacks maybe one winning the day here versus the national guys so far.
Yeah, so far. Definitely day one. I think that's we can solidly say that. Only had really like 2 notes from the 7-on-7 portion that I watched. Did not expect to write Auburn edge rusher Eku Leota down as solid in coverage. Did not expect to put that down. Did not look lost at all standing up. So jot that down for the memory bank there.
That's big for some teams. That's big for some teams to get a guy 6'3", 255 that can cover.
Yeah. Also in 7-on-7, Alabama safety DeMarco Helms comes screaming through, picked off a pass of Max Duggins there. So I know Helms got picked on big time in the Tennessee game, right? That was not a shining moment for him.
No, but
how many times he's gotten asked about that this week?
I'm sure. But he ended the season well, had a good bowl game against Kansas State, so maybe this is a peak back up.
I should be noted about 30 minutes into practice, Georgia running back Kenny McIntosh went down holding his right leg, and your immediate thought is, oh, no.
Yeah, right.
This man's done. But then I start seeing him taking both hands and like grabbing his feet, pulling it back. I'm like, oh no, he's cramping up. I know what it is now. It's like, okay, he's fine. Yeah.
Thankfully,
he got up, walked off on his own power, went back to the locker room. I'm sure he got some fluids in him, and that was that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see him back out at practice again tomorrow. But we didn't get to see him do a whole lot today before it was humid out there, Shane. It was humid.
Yeah. I mean, right. That's tough, especially if you're not expecting it. Hopefully he's back out tomorrow. And hopefully we have no injuries going forward. That's the absolute worst at the Senior Bowl.
I didn't really see anything or see anybody else report anything today of any other injuries other than the one to McIntosh. So hopefully we got through today clean. Last notes I have came from the full team portion of the drill, and I wanted to spotlight this guy because his weigh in, I think, was very good for him, and that was Florida A&M linebacker Isaiah Land. I believe we had him listed all season at 205 or 204, something along those lines. He weighed, 226 today, Shane?
226, yeah, 6'3" and a quarter, 226.
Yeah. I mean, he's still not big enough to be a true edge, but that is a good number for him. And you see the talent out there, and he in the full team, he beat quickly Wanya Morris around the edge for a sack because they let the play go even though he got to the quarterback. But so it was good to see that from him.
I mean, he's definitely a name I'm interested in watching because, like you said, his fit in the NFL is a little weird. You play him as a weak side backer. Can you use him as an edge in some schemes? I think that's going to be interesting. Maybe hurt his draft stock, but if he plays up, these small school guys, they play up at the Senior Bowl. You start to get a lot more comfortable.
Like we said earlier, you don't get a whole lot of running back shine in here, but when we went to the full team drills, one running back did, and that was Tajay Spears from Tulane. I believe you may have saw the clip of the screen pass.
Yeah,
that was beautiful. And then he had another run where he was just shot out of a cannon right through the hole. And he measured in great as well with his weigh in this morning or yesterday. a good first couple of days for the Tulane product.
Yeah, I saw the screen pass, and I think I even saw on the NFL Network they had the clip of the 11-11 run. Like, he just looks so shifty, getting to that hole, explosive, which is really impressive. Weigh-in was great for him, 204, which is a really nice weight number when he was listed well under that at Tulane. So this could be a coming out party for like round 2, early round 3. Tajay Spears is possible.
I don't want to say I was the first one that started talking about this guy, but I feel like I was.
Look, you can take the credit, though. You can take the credit.
I'm going to take that.
You have been
bow.
Mentioned, I think, like first podcast. I think
it was very early in the season. Very early in the season. Speaking of Tulane and guys I've been talking up, their linebacker Dorian Williams had himself a good day today as well, and he does a good job filling the hole in run fits. I don't think he's going to be drafted like day 2, but I think he's going to be a solid 4th, 5th round guy when we get through with the process.
Yeah, and a really long player for his size. I mean, he's under 6'1", but came in 80.5-inch wingspan. I would say that's the top of the true linebackers outside of Will McDonald and Nick Hampton, and he's 2 inches shorter than those guys. So a pretty impressive length on Dorian Williams too.
Yeah, it kind of makes you like you see that kind of length, and you can ignore the height a little bit.
Right.
With that kind of length. Hey, I found my only note I had of Rashee Rice here. As he got locked down on a go route by Darrell Luter Jr. of South Alabama, the corner. That was pretty impressive coverage there from Luter.
Yeah, local South Alabama guy. I think Luter's another one that can help himself for sure.
And last note I had was Emil Ekiyor, the Alabama. We have him as we've changed all of our guard centers to interior offensive line now, and it's for players like this because Ekiyor mostly took every rep today at center.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But this particular rep, he got beat quickly by University of South Carolina's own Zach Pickens, and Pickens shot the gap there. Could have had a sack on Badgett, if it was a real game. But he got in there pretty quick on that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you had to get a Zach Pickens note in there, right? A good positive one in there at some point. Look, I like Zach Pickens.
I will say this: if I do get the chance to talk to Zach Pickens at the media breakfast in the morning, the only question I want to ask him is, of all the helmet combinations they had at the University of South Carolina, why did he pick the one that he's wearing down there today? It is easily the worst they've worn in a decade.
You're gonna rip them up over there.
Hey, man. Somebody's got to do it. Poor fashion choice.
There you go. That's great. No, it's good. I mean, look, I'm so happy that you're down there. Happy to have you, reporting back to us live. I'm excited. After we're done, I'm going to dive into the film for the next couple hours and, burn the midnight oil and watch all of this and probably, tweet a couple things, and I'm sure they'll end up pretty similar. So for some of these guys, so I'm excited.
Shane's going to dive into the film. I'm going to dive into the sheets.
Yeah, you got an early start.
Get an early start tomorrow. Long day in the sun. Shane, January 31st. I don't know what it is in Pittsburgh right now, what the temperature is, but I can tell you
we're going down to 15 degrees tomorrow.
15 tonight. It was 75 degrees in the sun today. All sun today on one side. So my right side, if you see this side, you're like, oh, he's fine.
He's good.
No. Entire left side of my face and arm is just fried. Oh. And that takes it out of you. So I'm gonna hit the sack, I believe, as soon as we're done here.
That's fine. Get some rest so you can report back tomorrow with that padded practice, and we can get the insight in Zach Pickens' helmet, hopefully tomorrow on the podcast.
Yep. That's the news that people need to know.
That's what everyone's going to be itching for. So,
all right, everybody. So, yeah, it was a good night tonight. Go to draftcountdown.com. You can read my practice recap there. You can also go there and get all of the weigh-in results that we've been talking about today. Tomorrow morning, Shane's going to have a post go up with basically talking about all of the observations that you can take from those weigh-in results as well. And then I'll be back tomorrow with day 2 report as soon as I get back home from the practices. I don't really get a chance to tweet a lot at practice, but you might get the occasional injury update while I'm there. I tend to try to focus on that when I first get into practice and see who's in street clothes. So follow me on Twitter for that at Deep Fried Draft. Shane's going to give you film observations tonight. So follow him on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Follow Draft Countdown on Twitter at Draft Countdown. Go to draftcountdown.com for everything you need, Senior Bowl related and more, for this entire weekend going forward. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.